Welcome to another episode of the Christian Body Podcast. I am now in the presence of Terry. Welcome to the podcast, Terry. How's your day going?
Oh, it's going well. It's just started for me here. I'm on the West Coast.
Oh, right. You're in Vancouver, Canada, are you?
I'm actually in the interior. I moved from Vancouver probably 2 years ago now. I moved to a little small town called Nelson. It's really quaint. It's beautiful.
Oh, right. Bit more secluded
Yeah, it
or
definitely got quieter. It's a pace of life that I'm looking for, and I want to get some land. I want to connect to the earth. I want to grow food, and I'm kind of over the city life now.
wow. And have you just released the book or is it been yes.
Yeah, in November I released it, and yeah, the response has been phenomenal. I've been really, really, really proud of my accomplishment there, if I may say so of myself.
Yeah, I've actually bought the book, so
Oh, thank you.
I'm reading it at the moment, and yeah, I'm actually I wouldn't say I'm a meditation expert, but I usually do 5 to 10 minutes each day,
Beautiful.
and yeah, I felt like for me personally, it's helped me immensely with just being grounded in who I am as a person. My mind's a little bit more stable, I feel. Yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't recommend it
Amazing.
anymore. Yeah.
What got you into meditation, if I may ask?
Uh, Funny enough, someone at work was doing a seminar, and it was just like a workplace thing,
Mhm.
and that kind of kick-started. And then I introduced my parents to it, and my dad and I are pretty competitive, so I mean, I guess we kind of spur each other on, and yeah, we kind of help each. Yeah,
Nice. Well,
yeah,
competition definitely is a motivator.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
And like I'm reading parts of your book, and uh, you speak about things like unblock your chakras.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm curious about chakras because I know it's like an Eastern, or it's is it Vedic or like a Vedic tradition or
Yeah, it stems from Vedic traditions. Yeah, it's think of chakras. There's so many different ways you can look at chakras. I know in the mainstream media and what you get in a lot of yoga studios and classes, chakra are these wonderful energy centers full of color that can illuminate auras and whatnot. Now, forget all that. Honestly, just think of, do you know how you have a computer, like a motherboard, and each little chip has its own little information and data and teaches the main board how to operate? That's kind of like what a chakra is in your body. It's like this knowledge center of information that teaches you how to navigate forward, or how to navigate this body in this experience we call life.
yeah.
So at the last section of the book, what I call integrative development, I introduce chakras as like a personal development system. So each chakra, this little knowledge center, this tiny little brain within our body, which has its own little intelligence. When we stimulate each one, we start learning about ourselves and what we're capable of, what we need, how to navigate through the world, where to plant our roots, all sorts of stuff. Like there's so much knowledge just within our own bodies that we can access that can literally give us the answers and pave the way forward for us. We don't need to look to a guru. We don't need to look to any magic man. We don't need to look to a shaman. We don't need to you don't even look to your CEOs or your presidents or nothing. You have the intelligence within. And when you stimulate a chakra, when you listen to your chakra, that chakra starts to unblock. So, for example, and I'll just go straight to the root chakra, which is the first chakra you want to work on. And I always say think of it like a pre-enlightened state and a post-enlightened state for each chakra. And a pre-enlightened state is, so if you're not aware of the subtle body, if you're not connected to that kind of higher sense of self, then it's going to be very difficult to sense the energy of this chakra and how to use it. But fortunately, this intelligent design we have, which is the human body, there's clues, there's information that we can access just by looking and using our physical senses. So the root chakra is connected to the very first hole on your body, right at the base. It's your anus, whatever's coming out of your ass. If it's not healthy, that root chakra is
Yeah.
fucked, basically.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so it's really all about your connection to life, how you're breathing, that cyclical connection, you know, how you breathe out carbon dioxide and breathe in oxygen, how the trees breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, that cyclical connection to life, what we consume from the earth and what we basically what our bodies produce and give back to the earth, all that needs to be in harmonious balance for that chakra to be open and work for you. Because once you've got that, you've got your basic health set. And once you know how to keep this body that you have healthy, you can then move on to the next chakra, which is all about, well, what else can I do with it? Can I move it? How can I move it? Where do I want to go? The sacral chakra is all about play and, you know, exploring what's on top of the mountain to what's under that rock. There's a whole system to it. I mean, I could go for the whole thing, but this will be a long podcast. But it just starts with that.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned how the body is so intuitive, and I deeply agree with that. But a question is, why do you think people distrust the intuitiveness of the body and they follow something external? What there's like a separateness, like people, they don't trust their own body. I mean, why do you think that is? Is it?
Well, think of it like this. The first time you learn about your body truly, it's in a textbook. Yeah. At what age were you taught to just sit and listen to what your body is responding? You know, I remember even just growing up, even though I had a very holistic mother, we grew up in England in a very Western country. So whenever I had a tummy ache, you know, get the Calpol out or something. Yeah. You know, we're not taught to listen to our bodies. We're not trained to trust ourselves. Even now with the COVID crisis, it's crazy to me how we've just handed over. You know, you tell me if I'm healthy or not to walk down the street. You tell me, you know, it's all externalized now. And that's a very concerning thing for me.
Wow. And I want to touch on the point of enlightenment. There's this guy on YouTube. I can't remember his name, but he's some bodybuilder, and he's claiming that he's enlightened. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious about this whole thing about enlightenment. And do you mind expanding on that idea? Like what is?
And yeah, enlightenment. From the perspective of what you think enlightenment is a complete crock of shit. It's okay. Enlightenment is just knowing. Yeah. And once you know, and anyone who claims to be an enlightened being still has significant work to do. You know, there's ego speaking there. When enlightenment comes in stages, if you, for example, open a book and you learn something and it resonates so true to you, and you learn something about yourself and you're like, oh yeah, you've just become that much more enlightened. So enlightenment, it's that state of knowing. The highest level of enlightenment we're talking about, where we're connected to this higher power, this governing force. We understand basically everything from point 0 to basically 1. You know, how creation came about, what the whole journey is, as far as our human bodies can comprehend anyway. And even when one does become enlightened, one just continues on with their life. There's this ancient Buddhist saying or philosophy or proverb, I'm not quite sure, but it says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You just continue as you are. Because it's basically, you're here now. A post-enlightened individual, you're present, you're back. You're like, okay, I've gone to the transcendental state. I've experienced oneness. I've whatever you want to call your experience, what you connect to, call it God, call it universe, call it light, whatever. Once you've found that and you've really understood how you got to this point today, it gives you the green light to be here fully.
Yeah, it's almost as if your perception of the world changes in a sense. Like if I'm trying to rationalize it, it's like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
The best way, don't even try to define enlightenment. Just understand. It's like knowing when you figured out 1 + 1 = 2, you've just become a little bit more enlightened. So that's all enlightenment is. It's just these tiers of knowing until you get to that final tier. So, I mean, I always tell my clients, never ever worry about seeking enlightenment. When that day comes, it will come for you.
Mm,
You'll arrive at it, you'll understand it. There's a whole process of learning that needs to occur before accessing those transcendental states. No one should
yeah.
be, to be honest, don't get if I want to give anyone any advice, don't rush to enlightenment, because honestly, it's, from what I've heard, from what I've read, from what I understood, it can also be quite overwhelming too. Like, think about you navigating through your experience, living blissfully in a somewhat semi-ignorant state, it's joy, it's pleasure. And then you become significantly enlightened and you come back and you're like, oh, let everything just be. And then you just gotta, so much and you want to scream it from the rooftops, but you can't. You want to, you just have to be. There's nothing else to it. There's no wings you get. There's no superpower. You don't get
Yeah.
a super advanced body. It's just
Yeah.
a knowledge that you gain.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's exciting. That's exciting and scary at the same time. Yeah. uh, the third eye. I'm
The
curious.
third eye.
Yeah,
We're going quite deep
going
already.
quite deep. I love it. Yeah. Uh,
Okay, go on.
yeah.
What?
So, uh, yeah, like I see self-proclaimed psychics
Mm,
using the third eye and predicting the death of whatnot and all these things. And
mhm.
I don't know, maybe you can shed some light on the third eye. And yeah, I'm just
The
curious about.
third eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You sound like this is, it's like all someone that when I first started teaching meditation, it's like all these questions like, Terry, what is this? What does this mean? I was like, give me a second, let me teach you the basics first. But the third eye, I call it the eye of truth. It's that sense of what you know. So I always imagine like the third eye, and I didn't really write this in the book. I actually took it out of the book because it was so complicated and it took like several chapters to explain. But imagine there's an eye in your head. And when the eye is closed, the eyelid lines up here, right where your eyebrows are. And each time you meditate and each time you discover a truth, the eye opens a little bit more. And when the third eye is fully open, it can see the truth of all truths, the singular truth that governs this whole thing.
Wow.
But before then, the third eye, it's like, do you know how, like I said, understanding your root chakra, once you know how to keep your body healthy, you can move to the next. That's contributing to that third eye opening. Because what's happening is you're learning the truth of your body, and then you're learning the truth of, and then you go through the chakras learning all these other truths, and that's contributing to a level of awareness that you can then measure your experiences in meditation and in life against. So for example, you can trust yourself to be a healthy individual. Then I come to you and say, actually, you're not that healthy. Who are you going to trust? This external force of illusion, or the truth that you've learned within? Now, if you're trusting your innate truth, that's you now operating from your third eye. It's a very, the third eye is very fragile and very robust at the same time, because it can be consumed by illusion. The third eye is a powerful tool, but it just put it in simple words, it helps you cut through all the bullshit. It helps you see through everything that is illusory. And think of the third eye as like the eye of consciousness. It's not, you've got these physical eyes which help you comprehend this physical experience. You've got that third eye that can help you navigate through the metaphysical world.
Yeah.
The third eye is just, it's like a sense that you have that you don't know you have. It's your sense of truth. I can talk to you, look you directly in the eye, and there could be no scientific backed evidence, but you can tell if someone's telling the truth. You can feel it, you can resonate it. Like when you're in those deep connected relationships and you can really sense a bond. That's a truth. It's a truth. Love it. That's all love is. It's just a truth. And once you can sense that and connect to that so openly, your third eye is just being engaged. It allows you to kind of sit above this experience of life and only seek truth wherever it may be. Eye of truth. It's the simplest way to put it. No laser beams.
No, those are Damn.
Maybe one day. Who knows?
Oh wow, that's really cool. That's really cool to learn about that. And um, I know you speak about the breath as well
Mhm.
in the book. Yeah, I've actually been doing the Wim Hof method, um,
Nice.
and that's been pretty profound. I don't know if I'm breathing properly. I'm just breathing in my mouth and out.
Hmm.
So, and I've found, yeah, with doing that, there's so much power being connected to the breath. It's really cool.
The
Um,
breath is literally your superpower.
mm,
I can't believe how little emphasis we place on breath in this world that we live in.
mm,
There's this like first of all with the Wim Hof stuff, it always kind of baffles me how that Western masculinity especially is like, yes, I'm going to torture myself into enlightenment. Chill. We have a beautiful sun. We can go to tropical countries. We can seek those same healing properties. There's
yeah.
just as much as you can heal in the cold, you can heal in the heat. There's always that polar. Just remember that if you find things, there's always a more blissful, more simpler way to experience
Mm,
things and navigate through healing. But I love the Wim Hof method. I think it's just this great way that people can connect to their breath. However, to enhance that method, you really got to understand what you're doing with your breath. So you may have heard in yoga classes this thing called prana. Have you heard of prana
I've
before?
heard of it, prana. I'm not
Prana.
sure. Yeah.
So prana, and you can probably heard like yoga exercise like pranayama and all of that. Prana, a lot of people mistake prana for breath. But let's call prana this magic, this life magic that we all have. It's like our magic that navigates us through the world, that gives create life to all this creation that we have around us, right? Breathing is like the pump that keeps the magic alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So the computer screen that you're looking at has prana just as much as what your body has, because they're both physical elements or the both physical creations of life. And in order to be in life, you have to have prana. But because you can breathe, you can use prana to evolve, to grow, to create. And this is where the fundamental lesson comes in. Any breathing being, including those plants and everything, play a fundamental role to the collective evolution of life. Why? Is because they can change, they can contribute prana, they recycle it, they can think of prana like clay. Without breath, it gets hardened and it becomes inanimate, and
Yeah.
other forces have to come in to change it. Like, for example, if you want to change a computer screen, you got to put a bat to it, it's changed. But as an individual, your breathing keeps that prana malleable, it keeps it warm, it keeps that clay moldable, so it allows you to grow and evolve and heal. And prana is an immense magical power. Forget the third eye, forget enlightenment, learn how to harness prana first,
Yeah.
and it gives life to everything. Like, for example, if you're going to go into a memory, let's say you have a very traumatic memory or very traumatic experience in your life, it's not occurring in the present experience where you are now in your life. It's not occurring, but when you think about it, you're there. What's happening is, because your awareness is on that memory, so what happens is wherever awareness goes, wherever consciousness goes,
Yeah.
you're breathing, you're pumping that magic, and prana follows. So wherever awareness is, prana will follow. And so if you're reliving a traumatic memory and it's really feels like alive and it's there, you're feeding life to that memory. So when you breathe in meditation, you want to detach from that, you just go inhale and exhale through the nose. Inhale, pull yourself out of it. Exhale, center yourself back into your body. And then if you want to go back there, go for it. If you don't, stay out of it.
Mm,
Breath is remember, you're in control of that pump. If a memory or trauma takes over, that memory or trauma is going to be in charge of that pump. So it's going to control your breathing, and it's going to be like, yeah, feed me prana, give me more life. And therefore your trauma gets elevated and into this crazy abyss of despair and depression and whatnot.
wow. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, when you think of the power of the breath, and you touched on a point there about Western masculinity, like
Mhm.
this, and I feel like yeah, maybe I've been a victim of that. Maybe because now I feel like where my life is headed, the transformation that I'm making is that I'm trying to be more peaceful and loving. And sometimes I always thought that I needed to do the hard work in order to get, something. And now I'm realizing that, that there's a gracefulness of living life that I'm trying to be graceful in my life and trying to be humble with everything I do. Doesn't happen every day, but I try and I just want to give back to people, and it's so pleasant when you give back to other people, and it's a great feeling. So that's where I feel like I'm heading with my life at the moment, with meditation and yeah, all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Western masculinity. I mean, I was a victim of it for a long time too, growing up in England. And we're going through, what I like about this age of communication where we can just communicate to each other instantly. It's just opened the door to all these alternative narratives.
yeah,
And with that, we get to see alternative ways of being. Like one of the things I talk about in the book is I struggled with developing any sense of identity because there was no one who really looked like me. Well, there was a lot of people who looked like me where I grew up, but there was no one who that was acting the way I wanted to act. That there was no characters or no identities that really represented how I felt within. So that got more and more suppressed as I grew into my teens. And then as a result, what I learned to do in life was just to mimic the men around me, mimic the behaviors of men. Like all of a sudden the world opened up. It was amazing because it's almost like, I found the formula to survive this thing.
yeah,
But then as you grow older, you start repressing some more or suppressing some more of that truth within. So what happens is
yeah,
it's closing your third eye, it's closing you off from your experience within. And everything now becomes this experience from on the outside and how you're perceived and how you're connected to it and your survival comes about from everything that's going on there. You develop all these fears, you develop an identity that protects you from things you can't even see in the physical world, which is madness. We don't trust anything within our minds, and yet we deal with fears that we perceive that are going to come that aren't even present in the physical reality. We're constantly stuck in this
yeah,
state of dealing with illusion, like
yeah,
submitting to illusion. And when the internet came about and I started learning about all these individuals, learning about like sexuality and that it's the spectrum of genders and all of this wonderful stuff, which resonated in the ancient world but wasn't present here. And it really opened my eyes to who I could be and what I can be, and that it gives you the encouragement to be yourself completely. And I'm glad that whole idea of toxic masculinity is dying now, and even toxic femininity too. It exists. There's toxicity on both ends of the scale, and it's coming to a nice, it's slow, but it's coming there to a nice center where we can all just get on and be happy and be ourselves. This little cluster of color, which is everyone's just individual, and that's where magic really happens. Because then if you're thinking about we're navigating towards figuring out this collective truth, every single being on this planet contains a nugget of it, like a little jigsaw puzzle of that truth. And if we all start embracing who we are as individuals and we all start coming together, maybe we can put some pieces together and really ramp up this experience we call life.
yeah,
Who knows where we'd be? But if we continue to just branch off into these states of you know of identity that is constructed for us, we're going to really limit our evolution.
yeah, yeah. That was I feel like that's a major part of myself. I'm 30 years old, and I'm maybe in my mid-20s. I had that. There's like a bit of a loss of identity, and yeah, I feel like meditation is so powerful because it grounds you, and now I'm just confident in who I am as a person, and I'm not really seeking the external for clarification. I'm going internal, and that's I feel like we should be taught this stuff in school, like
100%.
like we should be taught to how to navigate the body, because the body is so intuitive. It's like a little machine, like a little factory almost.
It's
Like,
incredibly intelligent. I remember,
yeah.
this is going to sound so freaky. I'm going to sound like a psychopath now, but I remember when YouTube first came out, and I was really interested in watching videos on surgeries, and just watching like the heart pumping
Oh,
and the lungs inflating. I was like, wow, like this is a really intelligent design. And Western medicine sounds so complicated to me, because to me the whole system looks so simple. You just got to listen to it, and like everything has a beat, as a consciousness within. Like you just got to listen. And I think the major component that we're not taught in school is that we don't exist as body, we exist as consciousness. And I'll explain that a little bit more. So right now, the experience we're having, you and I, it's in the very present experience. No matter how much we try, we physically cannot take our bodies to the past, and we cannot take our bodies to the future. Let's say you built a time machine and you jumped in it and you went to the future or the past. You may, on a calendar, yeah, you may be in the future, but your body is experiencing something that is very present. So the experience, or the physical experience life, is always the present moment. You may be in a time machine and you hit the future, but that future is your present experience of life. You may go to the past, and that past will be a physical present experience of life. You can never navigate the body beyond the present moment of experience. Yet we can access memories, we can come up with ideas. The body, the physical body, is not in that processing. When you think of what you had for breakfast in the morning, your physical body is not going to retrieve that memory. You are going to retrieve that memory as something else. What is that entity? That's where I would argue it's called consciousness. Like this conscious entity navigating to that memory to have that experience. Now, if you want to reconstruct an idea, let's just say you're thinking about what to have for dinner. So you went to the past and you thought about what you had for breakfast, and consciousness went there and you experienced it. You come back and you're thinking, what do I want for dinner? Now consciousness has experienced the future. It's predetermining a state for you to bring into the present moment. So everything that's happening here gets filtered in and gets sent to the subconscious mind, the past. Whenever we need data, and all that is just experience and data waiting for us. This is an afterlife state. This is all just data waiting to be revived. Consciousness can revive any of that data whenever it wants. Let's say but what happens is, when we experience something out here and we have this toolbox of data, we can bring it together to create something new. Like if I ask you to think of a red lemon, you can do so easily because you know the color red, you've experienced lemons, and you can construct that data. And then all you need to do is think about how to bring that red lemon to life into the present moment. So although we traditionally think the future is ahead of our bodies, and we think of the past as behind our bodies or behind our experience, it's not. It's all within the mind. The mind is a much more expansive place than the body. So already now, as consciousness, you can have an experience in the present realm with the body. You can experience yourself in the past and the experiences that you once had with your body. And you can experience the future. And the only way to experience the future is to create it in your mind and bring it to life. And consciousness is doing all of this like a deity with 1,000 arms, pulling all these freaking information points in to navigate your experience of life. You get in control of that, you've just excelled your meditation practice by at least 60%, if not more. That's the basic of it. And once you can get control of that entire processing, when you understand the operation, then the fun can really start. Then your transcendental journey can truly begin, because it's about detaching from all of that and trying to locate the portal into a higher place.
So when you speak about higher place, yeah, you got me fascinated now. And do you mind expanding on that? Because
it's really difficult to comprehend, because really the only way anyone can experience any state of transcendence is with the data that's stored in their subconscious mind.
Okay.
So for example, you and I have probably had very different experiences in life, but how, like, for example, okay, I'm in a room full of religious people. One's a Christian, one's a Hindu, one's a Sikh, whatever. And everyone's going to this state of enlightenment. Everyone gets to transcendence, but they come back and every single person's story is different. Why? It's because the data in their minds is different.
Okay.
So once you can understand that, once you can comprehend that, you realize that when anyone's talking about enlightenment, firstly, accept that they're wrapping a story around this formula than this experience that they've had. You know, the Christian guy is probably saying, I found Jesus, I connected with Jesus. And then the Hindu is like, no, I found Krishna. Krishna's, you know, and then it starts getting confusing because that's the data that they've experienced and been exposed to in their lifetimes to comprehend where they just bloody went and what they just experienced.
Yeah.
So try not to get too bogged down by what enlightenment feels, thinks, and looks like. You can't define enlightenment using the attributes of the physical senses.
Mm.
Enlightenment itself, that portal, let's just put it this way. There's life, there's death, and there's deathlessness. Right. So life is this physical experience that we're having out here. Right. Death, contrary to popular belief, that's all those memories, because you're constantly having to revive that all the time. They just lie dormant and dead until you send prana to it to wake them up. Right.
Yeah.
So death is just basically this nothing, like it's just this state of data that's just waiting to be given life to. Deathlessness is basically your infinite state, the energy state, the state in which you reside in. It's the, how can I put this? It's going to be very difficult to explain. Think of it like, do you know how I said there's this point from where this whole creation started,
yep.
and there's you right now today. When you're in meditation, you're going from your point today back through the journey to that point of creation. You're essentially a creation going to meet the creator.
Okay.
And that's where you're navigating to. So what happens is, do you know how we spoke about consciousness earlier?
Yeah.
So first you detach from your physical senses. So you're detaching from all the physical experience. So you're sitting in meditation and you're separating yourself from anything that you can touch, taste, smell, hear, whatever. Then now you're in your mind. So you've consciousness moved from the body and now is in the body of the mind. And in the mind, you've got all these memories and ideas coming at you like all sorts, right?
Yeah.
You're detaching from them too. All these thoughts, feelings, and sensations, let them go. You're detaching. Now that you've detached from all of them, you're sitting in the mind idly. There's nothing else to detach from. No experience of life can consume you now. You've let all of that go. So where do you go next? Where's the next place? Well, this is where sitting in stillness starts to really take effect. Because what you're saying, in that state of stillness, you are expanding the conscious field around you, this energetic field around you. Why are you doing that when you're sitting in stillness? It's because if you're done with the subconscious mind, you're done with your new ideas to bring into the present, and you're done with the physical experience of life, where else can you go?
Yeah.
So now you put anything that your mind constructs to present at you, you're going to let it go. So let's say now you've pushed so far into the subconscious mind that now this is where we're going to get a little dogmatic. You've pushed so far into the subconscious mind that you've gone past your birth and you've entered the death of your previous life.
Wow.
But you're like, forget that, not interested in any of that either. And you're going further and further and further and further and further into that state of like the beginning.
Wow.
And then once you get there, the rest is up to you what you do after that.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. Jesus.
Yeah. And thing is, it's not even just in that direction. There's this other direction as well, where it's just like all these, like, do you know, when I always talk to in the psychedelic community, I get a lot of clients and they're always like come off DMT and ayahuasca and all this and this, that. I was like, well, if you just detach from all of those funky colors and all that beautiful, ooh, look at that shiny thing. I always say when you find when you're amused by all the fun colors and the wonderful psychedelia experience, it's like the gods are fucking with you.
Yeah.
So if you can detach from all of that, think about where you can go, where consciousness will eventually end. It's like backing up from yourself, backing up from your physical experience of life and going into, like I said, you're a creation and you're entering the state of creation. When it really starts to kick off is when you leave the body of you leave the body of the body, you detach from the body of the mind, and you enter the body of the soul. And that's where shit really begins. And that's what we're trying to get into in meditation. Because once you've entered the body and the soul, because what you should remember, you're carrying consciousness, awareness, an individual state of being into an infinite state of being. And to do that, you're going to have to let everything go. Remember, this is like a conscious experience through states of death and life and cycles. It's not, because death can only happen to the body. You know, you can leave your body, done, body's dead. But you can't kill energy necessarily. It just moves, it just changes. Yeah. How does it change? Well, you have all this bank of data where you just access and reconstruct. Like, think about how much data just exists in your pinky just to be able to do that. You know, like so much evolution, so much path, so much growth has occurred just so you could do that. So if that's how much data you have in your little pinky, can you imagine what you can access when you start letting go from the things in the mind and what you can learn? It's incredible. Sorry, well, you talk about enlightenment. I'm gonna go off on that.
No, that's yeah, you definitely took me down a journey there, and that was it was a very enlightening journey. Yeah, death. You kind of touched on death there, and it's interesting. I appreciate when you said, you know, the energy, our energy is still there, but the body's just like this vessel. It's like this cocoon or this vessel that's harnessing all this energy. Yeah, it's there's a lot to unpack there, and
so much
to unpack there. And
that's why I wrote a book on just teaching meditation as opposed to writing a book on what it all means, because even I ain't got a clue. Like, it's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. I had something I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, no, that's
death, enlightenment,
death, and yeah, and what concentration. You touched on that point in the book as well, and that's such a, because I work in IT at the moment, and you know, you're spending hours and hours in front of the computer, and it's you know, I think that concentration is definitely a vital skill for people in the workplace, and yeah, it's awesome to have, like, when you feel, it's like, I feel like it's a superpower, because you can your mind's a little bit more still, and yeah, you've got that level of focus that's yeah.
I would say meditation really starts taking off once you understand what you're creating with your life. You are a creator creating an experience. You're whatever that experience is. Maybe it's oneness, maybe it's utopia, maybe it's destruction, whatever. That's on you. You've got to first understand what your truth is. It's always when people ask me to teach them meditation to help them improve concentration at work or get their kids to study more and this, that, and the other, it kind of goes against the principles of the underlying principles of meditation. Yeah. Because for most individuals, they're working on other people's creations, in work and stuff. So, for example, and if that's like something that you're invested in, you're passionate about that creation and you want to be a part of it, then perfect, it'll work for you. But ask it, like, for example, if someone's like a coder and they're coding this for this client that then they have no interest in and they're struggling to focus, well, you're going to struggle to focus because you're not resonating with your truth. You're spending your finite experience in life doing something that's not resonating as true to you.
Yeah.
And so what I teach in meditation is to necessarily keep doing what you're doing to keep your life going, but understand that you are meditating to navigate and understand who you are innately, to understand and discover your truth. Once you understand what that is, you know exactly what challenges you need to solve in order to bring that truth into life, to navigate that truth into a reality.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, then you start building your life up and up and up from that point. Because there's nothing else. Like, you're either living by your truth or you're not. It's that black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to ask you what your meditation practice is these days. Like
My meditation practice tends to be more tantric than usual. And because I'm dealing with my truth on a daily basis now, I never knew that teaching meditation was something that I'd be doing. And once I started connecting to it and I started unlocking all this information, like, talk about like going into different lifetimes, accessing like encyclopedias of information, I realized like I had this incredible way to communicate and teach. So all my meditations now and all my connections that I feel and in meditation all come to now, how can I present more of this? What can I do next? For example, I'm trying to create this whole funnel and information system to help people kind of go to this event that I'm creating. And like, the first one I created was crap. And that would, like, people see it as a failure. I was like, yeah, it was, but that, I don't need that. I need to create something better that's more sustainable, that will work. And you just keep on going because there's nothing else other than that truth. So when I meditate, I'm looking for solutions to problems. I'm looking for, right, what do I need to learn from this material world in order to navigate this truth through it? What needs to occur for this truth to come into manifest? I pray a lot more. I never used to pray ever. And now I feel this incredible connection. It's not like a praying where it's like, oh, help me with this. It's like, I'm praying for things like, make the signs a little bit more simpler to see. Help me navigate to the health that I need to navigate to. Help me find, make the opportunities clear so I can seize them.
Yeah.
It's all about raising a state of awareness. And once you know what your truth is, you know exactly what to look for. And when you know exactly what to look for, you just focus your mind onto that. And that's essentially a prayer. But asking for someone to like divine intervention, you're the divine intervention in your life. You just got to know when to intervene and what to intervene into. But yeah, and my tantric meditations, a lot of dance, a lot of music, a lot of movement. I've got to a point in my meditations now where detaching is easy, letting things go. And I find I'm doing it more and more and more and more and when I sit and meditate, I find myself going to these higher states, but then knowing I just basically, once I arrive at a point that I need in order to continue with the creation that I'm building here, I come out. And sometimes I'll go even further beyond. And what can happen is you can get so much information come through that it can get overwhelming too. It's like there's people who've been meditating for years as well. I say they've had troubling meditations. It's not uncommon. You start connecting to pieces, you start realizing the state of the world and things like that, and misinformation, misguided information, and you're like, what is this world even worth being in? Should I just transcend and fuck off out of this body and go? And then it always has a way of reconnecting and you just got to keep at it. But yeah, meditation for me is it's a way of life. It's like breathing now. It's just, I don't understand why people don't meditate. I mean, we sleep to recover from the limitations of our body. We should be meditating to recover from the limitations of our mind, at least. It's a conscious processing. It's a human intelligence that we have that we hardly do.
Yeah.
Our cells are doing it.
Yeah, I resonate with that idea a lot. And I was reading into this idea about Zen, and you kind of touched on it a little bit when you said that when someone becomes enlightened or when someone knows, they almost go into this state of everything's empty and it's almost like a really empty state, and you can just be within your own bliss and just fuck off and just, you know. But I think there's more there's more. I think as a human race, you know, I think you need to be the beacon of positivity for the human race. I think that's, you know, I believe in a global utopia where you walk down the street and people say hello to you, and people say, how can I, you know, people say, how can I serve you? That's my visionary. That's my vision for the future, because, you know, we're living in such tumultuous times, divisive times, where people are judging you on your external. That we haven't yet entered into that internal state, and that's, you know, that's something that I'd like to, if anyone listening as well, you know, to help your fellow man, and you know, help everyone out. That's the
It's a
message.
beautiful message.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as like my versions of utopia are very different, I'm trying to teach people how to help themselves more so. I think it's so subconsciously ingrained that we need to help each other.
Yeah.
But not much. It doesn't go on. It doesn't read the data that we get. It's like, even in the news, you're like, help each other, follow, help your neighbors out, help each other out, help your community, you know, especially in this COVID crisis. But no one's really talking about what to do necessarily beyond serving the basic needs.
Yeah.
Beyond, you know, helping someone to know they're shopping, helping do a delivery, this, that, and the other. What we need to start doing is we need to start talking about each other's truths so that we can help each other facilitate those truths into reality. Now, I taught, like, all the stuff that I'm doing, like the online stuff, the book and all that stuff. Do I want to be doing that necessarily? No, I would love to just kind of exist, walk around naked my entire life, jump into lakes and just have a blissful experience.
Yeah.
But I know in order to facilitate that experience of life, I need to produce, I need to contribute something to my community whereby I can feel safe and secure enough to do that.
Yeah.
And so how do I do that? I teach what I know. I teach. And that's the best gift that you can give anyone. It really is. When you know who to go to learn something, that's a fucking utopia right there.
Yeah.
Because you don't have, I'll tell you, when I'm teaching meditation, I'm not a nice person necessarily. I'm like, let's get to this, let's go. You know, especially when I'm working with a psychedelic community, it's like, enough with your trauma. Let it go, like detach. And I'm like, breathe out of it, train, breathe, center yourself. Okay, you're there. Right. And so it's being kind, of course. It's definitely an element, an attribute that I want to see more of in this world. But I think before being kind, let's be true. Because I think with that, then we understand each other. Then we know where each other stand. Then we know what each other are about. You know, you sometimes, like, the most inspiring, like, I work with some artists, and they're not troubled, they're not having difficult experiences of life, but when they're creating, when they're painting, they're the most horrible people. they're just mean and unkind. But you know what, the results are incredible. They're what they produce, and that's their truth, and that's their kindness, that's their gift. And I think if we can encourage that within one another, it's like, okay, don't worry, that if you can see me as someone that doesn't need, that is not going to present judgment, it's not going to present hate and present no fear. Talk about Zen, talk about enlightenment. That's it there. No fear, no hate, no opinion, no nothing. Just basically seeing someone in their present existence. Once we switch that light on, once we can see the truth of what it all exactly, how it all exists, that's it. It'll just change overnight. And it's possible. It's really possible. The fact that I'm having this conversation with you through this format, different parts of the world, different experiences, different colors, just so many different ways that we're different, as well as we are similar. But we're having a conversation that doesn't require the attributes of the physical body in order to have the conversation. That's the world that we want to live in. That's the world where it's like, I can forget your name tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's the experience that I hold on to for the rest of my life. I know if I forget everything about you, but then I randomly walking down the street and I see you and I clock onto your eyes, I'm like, I remember that energy.
Remember that. Yeah.
You know, that's the magic I want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wow. That's crazy. And we've unpacked a lot in this podcast.
Squeeze a lot in.
We squeezed a lot in. I think I might end the conversation here but I've been, it's been a good experience. I've really enjoyed this experience talking with you, and I wish the best for your book and your teachings and your endeavors. I wish the best for you.
Thank you so much, and to you too.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and please subscribe to the show if you want to. You don't have to, but it would mean a lot to me if you could. And enjoy your day. Thank you.
Subscribe to the show. Look at the conversation we just had. Don't ask. Tell them to subscribe.
Tell them. All right.
Kristian's got a truth.
I'm being too nice. I'm being too nice. I'm just gonna
buy the book. Subscribe to the show. You want knowledge and answers? You're not gonna get them by being hesitant. You got to be affirmative in what you present.
All right. No worries. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you guys. And thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you.